Is the resolution? Hopefully looks okay. Yeah. All right. So, all right. So much like you all, I was once a cute, chubby little baby that was cherished by the parents and hopefully cherished today. But no, it's a little bit different. But I want you guys to imagine that if you had a child who didn't make it without a week in this world with you. Essentially, this is 3 million babies are born every year prematurely and die from preventable causes. And that's 3 million families a year who lose their little bundle of joy, and there's a loss of human potential. This is essentially a story about two babies, one who's born in the US, who has countless amount of medical resources, as opposed to one born in the rural hospitals, who have little to none, where simply a microwave bag of green beans is the only thing standing between life and death for them. And this is where King and Care comes in. Essentially, we nurture a chance at life. We essentially use this technique called kangaroo mother care, and we're using it because we figure out we can use this to regulate the temperature of the baby within 1 degree Celsius. We can integrate monitoring devices, medical monitoring devices, and hopefully create a sustainable solution so that it doesn't require an external heat source. Well, I mean, the question is, what is kangaroo mother care? It's that symbiotic life-saving technique. It's the infant-to-mother, skin-to-skin contact where the mother carries the infant and the mother acts as a biothermy regulator. So essentially, it's heat transfer. I mean, you, me, touch each other, we essentially become one. Because the premature infant it's underdeveloped and cannot sustain its own heat. And then right here is our solution, the IncuPack. Ian was here a little earlier. He was our main designer as the engineer, and then he actually did this all himself. And then you can see inside the baby fits right in here, and the mother wears this essentially as a vest. And there's other medical integrations, such as like having this so the doctors could see. We want to make sure we can have IV cords through a tracing system inside. I mean, I guess the question you can look at a little bit further, but this is the IncuPack. We first started developing this product with Thailand, specifically Nyao Hospital and Dr. P, where we looked at the environment and see how we can deal with the growth and use of the product. But as students, our group, we know that we're not the experts, so naturally we reached to anyone we could find in the world. And through that, we found medical and material experts from everywhere, practically, who validated our step every throughout the way. But we realized that's just not about selling a product and hopefully people would use it. It's so much more. I mean, there's an educational component where we had to go out to hospitals through like a global brigades network and teach them what kangaroo mother care is about. So also talking to the governments and hopefully planning for distribution and educational efforts too. I mean, with everything I want to talk about, it's just so much more than just creating a product. There's a story behind it. And essentially to now, this is our village with King and Care. We've kind of surrounded ourselves by talking to everyone we can, starting with Alta Bates to even UCSF now, where we want to work with future doctors. Our current stage is seed funding, so if anyone knows anyone with some money, we'll be glad to take it. Just talk to me afterwards. And right now, we hope to move towards empirical testing so we can prove the efficacy and safety of our product, talking to manufacturers and building that relationship, and hopefully global expanding beyond just Thailand. So together, we hope to make King and Care a provider of a safe and accessible solution for every hospital in the world and teach people the true benefits of kangaroo mother care. And that's my little spiel of King and Care. It's what I worked on this last semester through a class called Social Entrepreneurship, IER 190C, taught by Ken Sandy and David Law. Essentially, we were paired up with a social entrepreneur through Ashoka, Thailand, who had this real issue, and we had to essentially use these methods such as lean startup, customer collaboration, agile, to develop a prototype within 15 weeks, or like 3 months for him. And then for that, I just want to say that there is a constant theme, which I'll talk about, which is the voice of the customer that I found out through this class, where I think is very crucial. But first, let's learn about the situation. I mean, this is Nyao Hospital. Because of the class, we did well, I guess. We actually had an opportunity to go to Thailand and meet Dr. P and the hospital we were working with. This is actually in Lampang, Thailand, which is in the rural north. And this is the maternity ward. Right here, you can see the nurses here and some beds in the back. And lastly, this is Dr. P, a selfie of us two. We gave him some cow gear while we were there, but this is the doctor. There's only 5 of them for a hospital that has, I don't know, like a lot of nurses, I forgot, there's a huge picture, but it's a lot of nurses, and they really can't handle everything, but he's a really amazing guy who wants to solve so many issues with these rural hospitals that they have, and essentially, we worked with him. And it gets back to this point, it's the voice of the customer. Essentially, it's the perception of a customer needs and their wants. I say that's what I've learned, essentially. We can do this throughout the semester. Since we were based in America, we had to work with him halfway across the globe. We did Skype calls, email, and Facebook. I mean, if you work in Thailand, you'll soon realize that everyone uses Facebook there. It's like big. I feel like it's probably bigger than here. It's crazy. We just had conversations with him on our group chat. But essentially at that point, when we got to go to Thailand, I felt there was so much more that was learned within that like few days as opposed to doing all these 3 tools. I mean, there's so much more. It's like talking face to face, that interaction. We get to see his humanly reaction. We got to show the product to the nurses, how it would actually be used in an ambulance situation. It's truly understanding that customer needs. So what I want to like tell people essentially, you really have to just go out in the field. There's a certain point when you can do research and then understand the problem, but you just need to go out and just do it and see what happens. Who knows? And it brings that point, like you really need to go out in the field to figure out the main question of who are you actually designing for? I mean, is it the customer, the manufacturer, distributor, or even your investors? I mean, what's the pursuit of design if you don't know who you're actually designing for? So I just want to use this talk to talk about my experiences in human-centered design and my journey, and hopefully for people interested in this field of social entrepreneurship that you'll have an idea what to do. But first, before I get deeper, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Gary Duan. I'm a second-generation Chinese male born and raised in Sacramento, or Sacktown, California. I'm a fourth-year graduating econ major. Since high school, I learned about econ. I've been interested in developmental econ. And that's what I hope to do with such efforts as King and Care. And now I'm getting a certificate in engineering leadership and human-centered design, which is why I'm presenting here right now. Thank you. And in the winters, I love to snowboard, and sometimes that includes falling. And I love to practice martial arts, such as wushu. And a lot of my friends call me a social butterfly, but I'm also a little bit cheap. So here's a picture of my friends and I just getting free ice cream from Ben & Jerry's. We had to wait in a really long line. And I can't always be happy, so I mean, here's a little picture of me being disgruntled. It was a sunny day at Thai Temple, and I just wanted to eat my food, and my pictures and my friends kept wanting to take pictures. Just let me eat my food. And here's me this past weekend, just having fun at Holy. I mean, I'm just a student too, right? I can have fun. And I think it goes to questions like, why am I telling this kind of like my life story, who I am? I think the answer is simple. It's empathy. It's a hot word of buzz in like the design world right now. Without empathy, I don't think there's much to design because it's all about sharing and understanding the feelings of another. It's that interaction between you and me. It's that same phrase when you're in kindergarten when, let's say, I'm not going to say I did it, but maybe punch another kid and your teacher's like, why don't you step in their shoes and actually know what they feel? And I mean, empathy is what we big kids call it nowadays. So I thought it'd be appropriate for you guys to learn where I come from so I can, teach you what I've learned appropriately. So next would be this class called Entrepreneurship to Address Global Poverty through UGBA 195S, taught by Professor John Danner. I actually thought this was one of the best courses I ever was taught at Berkeley, or took. It's actually also the first time I learned about the concept of design thinking. Essentially, you think about the issue is that a lot of people are trying to solve so many issues in the world, make products, do great collaborations, but if you look at this bottom of the pyramid, there's a huge 4 billion people that live under like $2.5 a day that still are missing needs. And you think about it, that's actually a $5 trillion market. So that's a huge potential there. But I mean, we also have to talk about the issue, like what is poverty? It's the lack of basic needs, it's ill-being, it's vulnerability. And in this class, I learned some great things, like there's the private sector. They're doing great stuff right now, everyone knows, like go work for a big bank, But they're always working at the margins. They have to hold their margins to their shareholders, so maybe they can't pursue what their needs are or what their desires are as a person. There's the public masses in the government. They want to provide social welfare, but in the end, sometimes the political agendas get in the way. And then there's the nonprofits. They have the mission, but sometimes they lack that scale that the other two have. and they have that donor need issue. So why not have this hybrid where there's a social enterprise who's working for all these same objectives and hopefully can get at this point. And that's what I kind of want to deal with. It's a new field. You can play around with it. I feel like that's the perfect sector for human-centered design. I mean, that's also new, so why not just throw it out there and see what happens? And then lastly, throughout the class, I learned that there's this great need. As I talked about the customer's voice, at this course I really learned about the true needs and wants of people, especially at the bottom of the pyramid. You have something you have, and then something you would like to have. There's that roof over your head, or what you need to eat. But even if you, as a designer, you create a solution, sometimes there's that want, and if they don't want it, they're not going to buy it. So you have to think about both things. So you want to design for wants, needs and wants. I think that's what we've been learning at Kang and Care. We created a great solution. So this should say million babies, right? But I mean, there's so much more to the story than just creating a product, as I said before. And that's why I think is big at, I can take my learnings at Back to Roots, a startup I've been working at where we're making food personal again. It started out at Berkeley, as some of you may know, from a random fact that you can grow mushrooms out of recycled coffee grounds. And since that, the two co-founders have been on this incredible journey to rediscover food. And then with that, it's more than just waking up 5 a.m. in the morning, getting coffee grounds, making mushroom kits, and selling wholesale mushrooms at Whole Foods. It's talking to the customers, learning what they want. They realize that customers want to be able to grow their own food. So as a result, they created the mushroom kit. And you can see this is the evolution of the mushroom kit. Over time, as they are actually in the storefront selling the product, they learned that, I mean, mushroom garden, are these edible? I don't know. So like we put the picture of the mushroom straight in front of the box so you can see it for your eyes. Very visible, great design. But I mean, is that it? Is that really it? Is that the customer? Well, here's the newest iteration. And as you can see right here, there's a subtle difference within this box design. On the top, you notice it's a little flat. I mean, it's not until you start talking to packaging designers and retailers that there's more to the story, that there's the store layout, there's a distribution that matters into the factor. If you have the customer need and want, you have to be able to distribute that product to get it in their hands. So that's designing for distribution. Because essentially this top allows you to stack these and whatnot. It's a lot easier to transport. And also, the most recent product we released is the Aqua Farm. It's a self-cleaning fish tank that grows food off of aquaponics. This is my first time I actually got to really delve into deep of design itself, which I thought was pretty awesome. Because the summer after I took that entrepreneurship course class, we started doing this product. It's completely new. I started meeting designers that we were working with, the great designs that they're coming up with, and just have input into this. We worked with top designers, and it was just awesome time. But what I learned is that there's so much more besides distribution now. There's manufacturing. What about when you're designing it? How will the molds be made? How will you put it together? How many pieces will it take? I mean, there's that component too. And then coming from a bootstrap venture, we don't have that much money. We don't have that disposable income where we can make a casing for every new design. So we need to be careful about what we do. So as we actually did this through a Kickstarter. And then we raised a lot of money. And through the voice of the customer, we actually able to make iteration on that design. But I feel like that came at a cost of manufacturing because of that. We didn't have that perfect mold the first time. So we didn't have to put more money into that same casing and make adjustments. So it's crucial to test more beforehand so you can make sure you're designing for manufacturing. And lastly, I just want to talk about class CogSci. This was a fun class I took early on in my college career where I essentially just learned interdisciplinary is the way to go. You come from all over different backgrounds to basically learn and tackle the same issues. You're dealing with the classical questions with using modern techniques. And that's where I come to DFA. I'm currently a studio lead for this club on campus. We're a fun group that's essentially using human-centered design to create social and local impact. And the cool thing is that as a group, it's putting together anthropologists, economists, biologists, computer scientists together in one group to address the world's pressing needs in our own backyard. As global, it's not just all around the world. The US also matters. Just make sure you don't get lost in there. And so we use this process guide. So if you think about it through Back to the Roots and King and Care, and we've gone through the same exact process, identify, immersing, reframe, and then just building and testing and then thinking about the sustainable model. And then here's a cool timeline. I think that's the magic. It's not just a linear process. It's about moving back and forth. I know it's a little bit hard to see at this point, but if you think about King Care, we were thinking about very sustainable, how can we make this a well-run business? Well, we're actually almost back at here, at reframing ourselves and re-immersing ourselves in the issue and trying to solve it. And at the end, I just want to talk about, it's all about the human. If you want to make a real difference in the world, especially through social entrepreneurship, it's all about putting the human back in the picture. It's not that hard if you think about it. It's like what we were taught to do every day, just talking face to face, that learning, that conversation that occurs between us. It's observing the real world, sitting in the park and just watching people throw away that trash if you're working with composting, or just writing your thoughts down in a journal and just letting ideas flow. So I just want to end this with the fact that you should really just design for yourself. If you want to address the world's pressing needs, these social issues, sometimes it can be overwhelming yourself. So when you wake up, make sure that whatever you're doing, you are able to wake up inspired to do what you want to strive for. So that's my toolkit for social entrepreneurs, which is essentially human-centered design. So thank you very much.
Gary, will you be sticking around, or
Till like,
till 4?
yeah, I can stick around till 4.
Okay.
Have all the designs.
Yeah, let's